What's up everybody, Slash here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the final tier list for the colors, and we're going into blue. Now of course we also have multicolor, but multicolor only have 5 leaders, so maybe we'll do something with that later. But without further ado, if you haven't subscribed already, don't forget to do so. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Let's jump into it. So, here we are. We have blue. Now, we've done something a little different this time. We've got meta, competitive, good locals, it's okay, and meh. We're not doing trash this time. More because in blue as well, in general, a lot of the leaders do something. And usually something a bit better than a lot of other colors. Like, for example, green, there are a lot of good leaders in general, but a lot of them have such a long, big mechanic that you have to play, like a giant archetype. And with red as well, it kind of falls in the same thing. But red also has a lot of leaders that just don't do anything in general. So here we're going more with meh and it's okay. So I will also mention as well that there are a lot of decks we're going to be putting into it's okay, but they are also good locals. But it's more of, at the moment, we're not seeing as much play from a lot of these decks that we'll be putting there. And of course, if I'm wrong or if I'm missing a leader here, let me know in the comments down below. I love to hear it. I read them all. And so let's jump into this. So we have Vegeta. Now this Vegeta isn't too bad. I wouldn't say it's very good today, but it's something that you could still play. So if, like that, we'll put that in. It's okay. The old Beerus, we have a new one. This one is meh. The old Goku as well. This is like BT1. It's not great. I'm gonna have to put that into meh. And with the Trunks as well, the original, the leader's okay. I mean, definitely play the reboot. You can get the deck for like 15 euros or 15 USD. It's a cheap deck. It's a pretty fun deck too. It can perform at good locals. However, the older one, not so much. So I'm going to put that into it's okay. And now we have the Zamasu. So the Zamasu is okay. There are some that are good. There are some that are average. And there are some that are just trash. But I think in general, it depends as a player what you do with it. So all of the Zamasus, in my opinion, I'm going to put them all in it's okay in the same row. But it is up to you as the player, which one do you think is better? Because I've seen a lot of people switch between two in particular. So with that, I'm going to put it in it's okay. We have the old baby leader. Now this is still actually playable today. It's not as good, but it's still playable. We've seen play of it too. So I'm going to put that into good locals. Then we have Vegeta Ramp. Now Vegeta Ramp is, for me, I think it's a good local deck. I wouldn't say it's competitive at the moment, but it's a deck that you can still perform very well with. And it falls under the same category as the reboot Beerus, because they both are very strong, but they do things a little bit differently. So it's more of personal choice which one you prefer to play. But with that being said, I would have to put that at the front of good locals. It practically is competitive, but from the current format that we're in right now, there are just other ones that do a much better job. Then we have Pycon. This Pycon, I personally think, is better than the recent one that we got. What was it, like BT18 or something like that? So I'm going to put this into it's okay. I wouldn't say it's that great, but it is somewhat playable, right? Then we have Janemba. So with these Janembas, I'm going to do the same thing as the Zamasus. They are all good in some way. There is one that is like super rogue, and then there's one that is more like a mid-range play. But it comes under the same thing as Zamasu, where it's personal choice, and it's such a rogue deck that it comes and it goes so often. I'm not sure if I would put it into good locals for now. It deserves to be in good locals, but at the same time, it's, yeah, like I said, we don't know. So I'm going to have to put that into, well, maybe you know, but I'm going to put that into it's okay. But I will say Janemba is a very good deck. Then we have the Teen Gohan. So this still sees play today. It's not as good as a lot of these other higher end decks. Is it better than Vegeta Ramp? I don't think so. The support they made for it as well recently, it's alright. It's kind of like a budding hero for the deck, but at the same time, it doesn't really do that much. You're paying 2 energies instead of 1, kind of like what the budding hero does. So with that being said, I would say it's good locals, but I don't think it's like super, super good. And same with Bojack. Bojack is a very good leader, it is definitely a good locals deck. You can perform very well with it. It kind of just caps out at some point, and then it just doesn't really do that much anymore. I would say it has earned its spot in good locals, but it would be towards the back at the moment just because of the lack of support for it. They did make recent support that made it better, but then they they limited the Boo Unison to 1, which really just killed the deck. So it made the support just less relevant, but it's still playable today. And then we have Hirudegon. So this is also a deck that a lot of people would say it's okay, but it is actually a pretty good deck. It's just how you build it. Can you take this to a locals and perform with it? Yes, you can. Would it top in locals? I'm not so sure about that. So with that being said, I would say good locals, but it would go towards the back. And with the Cubba, U6 Cubba, it's a decent leader for sure. Is the support very good for it at the moment? No. I would probably go with blue-yellow for this. But in general, I think if you just boost with a Universe 6 card, you get to restand an energy. That makes it more of a better generic leader. So I would say, I would go to the top of it's okay. And then we have Kale. This leader is not good, in my opinion, but it is still playable if you want to play a U6 version, and U6 has some decent support, right? So I'd put that towards the back here. Whis, I don't care what people say. I don't think this is a good deck. This would definitely go into meh. We have Pycon. Like a lot of these things we're going to see here, like even these three, you could put them all into good locals, but it's more of what are we seeing at the moment. And because of that, Pycon doesn't see much play. So I would have to say it would go into it's okay. It's alright. Then we have the Gohan SH. We do see play of this now and then. It's kind of a tough deck to play because of being only 3 energies and all. Would I say this is competitive? No. Would it be good locals? Yeah. I would say it would actually go towards the top of good locals. It would probably go somewhere here for sure. Then we have the Fetty Boom Boom. Now, Fetty Boom Boom, I would have to put into it's okay. So I've built this deck. I've tried it multiple different ways. It's not that good. The downside to the deck as well is that a lot of the beat sticks for it are just 15Ks, either Revenge or Blocker, but there's no stats to it. There's no 20K double strike. There's nothing. And the boss monster is 25K triple strike. You can pretty much cheat it out for like 1 energy, but it doesn't do much. It's stuck in rest mode, then you have to use your leader's ability to restand it. It's not that good. The Unawakened side's pretty cool, being able to boost with any blue card and you just draw 1, so that includes your opponent's turn. That's cool, but that's about it. Then we have Zamasu. This one, in my opinion, is not very good. Sadly, this one is like you can stop your opponent's attack, you place the top 5 cards of your deck in the drop. It's meh. It sounds better. What I said sounds cool, but it's not that cool. Then we have the Trunks. This isn't that good either. I would definitely put this ahead though. The Goku Rose. Now this one we've now got the reboot for it for the Ultimate deck. This is still a pretty decent leader, so I would definitely put this higher up here. Then we have Android 18. Android 18 is a pretty good deck. The only drawback to the deck is the amount of Krillins you have to run. But if you run the 17-18 Unison, where you can boost with cards from your drop, that makes this deck a lot better. Therefore, you can now run less Krillins in general and be able to boost from your Krillins from your drop, which allows you to now play your Android 18s from under your leader a lot quicker. So with that being said, it's not competitive by any means, but it is definitely good locals, and I would probably put it right there. And with the Boo one that's coming as well from the next set, I would have to say it's a pretty good deck from what we've seen of it. The only downside is the Unawakened side, where when you want to awaken, you have to at least play one of your Oobs, and that will allow your opponent to draw a card, then add a card. So you're kind of helping them with cycle, and I believe that has to at least happen twice, which is kind of a downside. But the generic boss monsters for the deck are pretty good. So I would say it's probably going to go to good locals. However, we're not sure quite yet where it would go. I do believe that Android 18 will still be better than it. And then we have the new Baby Brainwashed. This one I believe is going to be strong. I think this will be one of the stronger blue decks. Of course, you got a lot of servant cards, so that's plus 10k. So your beat sticks are now even more aggressive and even stronger in general. But I would have to say this would have to go into good locals and probably ahead. I'm unsure if it would go ahead of Android 18, but it still deserves a spot up there. Then we have Boo. Now this Boo, I don't think it was very good. I versed this in the past. It doesn't do really much for it. I mean, the engine is cool, but it's quite expensive for energy now that you, for example, can't be aggressive with Sensu Bean and restand energies. So I'd have to put this into meh. Then we have the old Trunks leader. This one's not that good. They made another one later on. I think it was like 10 sets later. And it was a lot better, but it was still quite a glass cannon. And we'll get to that shortly. But I would have to say this one would go here. Hirudegon leader itself is just a good generic leader. Now, because it's good and generic, it goes a little bit higher. However, there's no real support for this one. So it goes that little bit lower then. So I would have to say it goes to it's okay. And as a generic good leader, you could put it at the top because you could make something very rogue and very fun out of it. It's probably not going to be topping in competitive play, but it would still perform very well. Just being able to, off your leader, do some hand destruction every turn to your opponent, that's pretty cool. The Wish Gohan, we don't see any play of it at the moment. I haven't seen any play for a long time, actually, from this one. I would have to say it would either go to the back of it's okay or to meh. But I think I'm going to put it into meh. There is just a better one that's coming up. We'll see in a minute. And then we have Janemba. This is the same thing as before. It goes into it's okay. However, I would say they are good locals for sure. But it's just about which one you want to play. And with that being said, I would put them here. Don't scold me on it. Just understand my reasoning. It's more of making a choice of which one you want to play. Do you want to be more mid-range or do you want to just completely mill your opponent out? Then I would go with this version of Wish. This one is actually a good deck. I remember before and after Soul Striker got errated, this deck came back for quite a while, and it was a very strong deck. Still is today. You could still perform very well with it. However, I think now that Crimson is gone, and we're seeing more of a Soul Striker return, because of the aggressive nature to the new blue support for Soul Striker, it makes it better than wanting to play this, but you could still take this to locals and perform with it. So I would definitely put it up here. I would actually have to say something like, I think Hirudegon goes to the back. Then we have the Kid Buu. So I remember versing this in the past as well. It's a very strong deck. It's really good against decks that, if this can stabilize like turn 4, turn 5, and you get your setup going, it's very good. But then if you remove their setup, it's very shit. So I'd have to say this would have to go into it's okay. Like it's okay. It's decent. I would probably put it way back here though. These things go right to the top, by the way. All of these things. And same with the Zamasu. Then we have the Vegito. So there are a few different Gogeta and Vegito decks they're kind of similar to each other for what they do. This one is not bad in any means. Is it good locals? I mean, we don't see a heck of a lot of play. I would have to say this one would probably go to it's okay. Somewhere here. Then I would say the Zamasu as well falls in the same category. I would put them together. I think this is personally better in my opinion. Then we have the old Android 18. Now, this one I would have to put probably somewhere back here, just because the new one does a way better job. This one is more using your clone tokens and things like that. And then we have Android 21. Because of the Android 21 support in general, the deck is very good, but this is not the good Android 21 leader that most people use. So with that being said, because it can still use the same support, it definitely goes up here, but it's not as good. I would probably put it there. And then we have Android 17. So Android 17, it's a pretty cool leader. It is not as good as if you were to just run the red version, the newer one for the Invoker. I really wish they just made the red Invoker one as a blue one, because then you could run all the Dimension Magics, all the blue support just to help you have better defense in general. But this deck is still decent. Would I say it is seeing a lot of play lately? No, I don't think so. I would rather put this into it's okay, somewhere probably here. And then we have Beerus. Now, Beerus is the same thing as the Vegeta ramp. where it just comes down to which one would you rather play, which one do you prefer. I would have to say the Beerus is definitely better in some ways. But at the same time, I would have to say Vegeta is better in some ways. So it's more of which way do you want to play. Do you want to be able to ramp early, or do you want to ramp a little bit later, but then more consistently later? Then I would have to say the Beerus would just go right here, beside each other. So the Beerus has some good Z support, but the Vegeta ramp, because if they counter and you're awakened, then you can just re-attack with your leader again, which is really cool. So there's just a bit more damage as well in general. But it just comes down to which one do you prefer to play. We did see, as time went on in the previous set and format, really, the Beerus ones topped more in like finals and competitive play in general. But the Vegeta ramp is still good in general. So yeah, pick and choose. Then we have the Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Now, this sees a little bit less play at the moment because of Gamma, but this is still a competitive deck. It is a competitive deck. The Blitz for it just carries the deck in general, and I would have to say it goes competitive, but it would go to the back of competitive. And then we have a actual meta deck. Why is this meta? You can play stuff from your energies. It has the support of androids, so it has amazing counters and counterplays. You have a great boss monster you can play for 4 and wipe their field. You have ways to really cement in your end play to just go for your final swing, like turning the tides. There is so much things you can do with it, so this deserves its spot into meta. And then we have Android 16. Now, Android 16, it is a good deck. We don't see much play from it at the moment, but you could definitely take this to locals and perform with it. I've gotten my ass kicked to this deck multiple times. It is a very good deck. I would have to put that definitely ahead of these. I would say it would go somewhere there. Then we have the Vegeta Universe 7. Now, this deck it's okay. Like, you could take this to locals, you could perform with it, but I don't think you're going to do that great with it. I would rather run anything else. I would say it's good. I would put it definitely ahead here. Then we have the new reborn version of Goku Rose. Now, this deck I'm excited for. I think this is going to be a very strong deck. We've already seen a lot of people make some crazy builds with this. I would have to say this is definitely going to good locals, and I would put this definitely towards the top here. I actually think it's going to be better than SH, for sure. This deck looks very impressive. A little bit quirky with your early game play, but late game, it looks like one of those decks where once you stabilize, it is so strong. Then we have the old Goku. I'm sorry, but this isn't good. Same with this one as well. I'm not a fan of that. I think taking your life and getting plus 10k for your attack, cool, but that's all you're doing. Now these Miracle Gogetas, it's okay. It's pretty decent. I would have to put them side by side here because it's the same leader. General Red. Now, this was cool to see. Some people, I thought at first, because I built this deck, I thought it was pretty shit because you had to play your 2-drop and then you have to get rid of your cards on the field and then you can start doing your abilities. I thought it was a bit clunky, but I'm impressed. I've seen some people go to competitive play with this deck, which was amazing to see. So, I've been proven wrong about this, and I'm definitely going to be putting this much higher up here. I would have to say it's definitely some sort of rogue deck. I would definitely put it up there. Then we have Stormfist, Krillin. This deck I love. Stormfist Krillin is such a cool deck. I would have to put this probably still into it's okay. But it is the same thing as kind of like Hirudegon leader. It's just a good generic leader. So would you rather do hand destruction to your opponent, or do you want to just draw a shit ton every single turn? That's the choices you have. So I would have to say this one goes side by side. And remember what I said. A lot of this it's okay stuff, you can just put into good locals, but it's more of what is seeing more play in the past at least year that we've seen. Well, year and a half now. Now we have Android 21. This is a very competitive deck for sure. This is so strong. The Android support they just keep on making for it just makes this ridiculously strong. There are still a lot of ways to answer it. That's why it's not going meta in my opinion. But it is still very aggressive and it can be very stalling to your opponent. Then we have Janemba. Same thing as before. Then we have the Gogeta as well. This one is pretty cool. This one we saw some play recently. Someone managed to top with it. It was really cool. You could ramp, and you could. They also made that support. It was like a 8-cost Gogeta. It was pretty cool. I would have to say this stuff would probably go there. This Vegeta leader, it's generic. Unawakened side, you're like critical 10k. An awakened side, it's meh. But at the same time, it's not a bad leader, but it just doesn't have any support for it. So with that being said, I would put it back here. Bergamo Reborn, that was a cool deck. But did we get any support for it? No, we did not. You could show up with this and it could be quite a rogue deck, but I don't think it's going to be that great. I'm really sad to see this just fall away. I had so much hope for this. I'm going to have to put this into... It's okay. And I would probably put that somewhere here. Because I think you could still play it, but the energy investment for what you're playing is not that great these days. There's so much removal, so trying to lock your opponent like you used to do back in the day is not as good as what it used to be. So now we have the Vegeta. If they unerrata this leader, this deck will be so good. But now, because of the errata, it's okay. Like, it's decent. I would say it would go somewhere here. Then we have the Another World Goku. This one is okay. This goes in the same category as the Pycon leader. But I would have to say the Pycon is still better than this. So I would have to put this there. Then we have the Goku leader. I remember when this first popped up, this was quite impressive. There was a lot of hope for this. But I'm not a fan. I think it's still good locals, but it would go towards the back. I would rather just play Soul Striker for what you can do with it in general. So I would say, yeah, somewhere here. It's definitely better than Hirudegon. And speaking of Soul Striker, we have the old one. Now, the old Soul Striker leader, this is a fun deck. I think it falls in the same category as Hirudegon as well, and Stormfist Krillin, because they more or less are just good generic leaders. This one you can at least restand multicolor energy, so if you wanted to make some fun build with it, you could definitely use this. Just know that you're drawing less cards compared to the original Soul Striker. So I would have to say it's a good generic leader. I would definitely put this alongside the others. And then we have the actual OG Soul Striker, my favorite. Now this deck is nutty. You can build this so aggressive today, or you can also still today be able to play this mid-range. We don't really see any mid-range, but you can definitely do it with this deck. Because it can stabilize so well when you get to like turn 4 in it, and the support these days for defense for blue is still pretty good. So it's definitely earns its spot in competitive play. It is a very good deck. I would have to say it would be equal to Android 21. It's just a choice of what kind of deck you want to play. Then we have this Vegito. This Vegito deck, I still really want to build this. I think it's a very good leader. It's very strong. And the support for it is pretty decent. So I'm going to have to say this goes to good locals. And it would probably go ahead somewhere here. Yeah, probably back here a bit. I think this one goes higher up. Then we have the Reboot Trunks. So this deck actually looks really good. A lot of people were saying this was going to be the replacement for Crimson when it was banned. I didn't think so. I think everyone was just going to jump onto Soul Striker. But this is still a good deck nonetheless. I would have to say this deserves its spot into good locals for sure. It is a very good deck, and they've got some support for it. So it's worth picking up and giving it a try. It's cheap to play anyway these days. Then we have the Gogeta leader as well. I love this one. This is such a cool leader. You've been able to make your opponent only use counters one time their next turn. That's pretty cool. Is there any real support for it today? No, not really. But can you generically put stuff into it and make it work? For sure you can. I would have to say this would go into good locals, but it would be definitely towards the back. To be honest, we don't see as much play as a lot of these other things. I think I'm being biased, so I'm going to have to say it would go here. Because, I mean, a lot of people are already going to hate me for putting this stuff further back here. So, yeah, I think it has to go somewhere there. Then we have the Gohan leader. I'm not a fan of this leader. I think the Unawakened side not having their permanent like the Awakened side. And what I mean by that is you have to have a Universe 7 battle card on the field, and then you boost with it, then you can draw 2 with your leader. So I think because of that, it's kind of shit, But the Awakened side is pretty cool, where now you can boost with your Universe 7 cards that are in rest mode. But I still don't think this deck is that good. I would love to see a reboot of this. I think if they make the permanent for both sides, that would make the deck a lot better. And then give it like a good Awakening value. So with that being said, it's still generically okay, because it has the Warrior of Universe 7 keyword as well. But it's not as good as what you want it to be. So I'm going to have to put it here. I think the cover is still much better, to be honest. I think I'm being a bit rude with that one. And I'm sure I'm being rude with a lot of others too. But you got to think about, what are we seeing play of a lot recently? And I think we're seeing more of this stuff in good locals than we do with It's Okay, except for the Janembas. And then we have the Old Bergamo. This is okay. I mean, I tried playing this, I think about a year ago now, or like 8-9 months ago. It's not good. It's not good at all. So I'm going to have to put this into meh. This is a fun and strong deck, but it is a real glass cannon. It's so easy to just remove the field of this card, and then you have nothing in your hand. You've got no damage anymore. But this can be super aggressive. But I would have to say it's okay. I would love to put this into good locals, and I think, yes, you could still perform with it, but that's the thing. And it's okay. Still is stuff that you can go to locals with and perform with it, but what are things that will be more likely to top? I think it would be everything that we currently see in good locals, and if not a little more. But I would have to put this somewhere here, I think. Then we have Oob. Now, Oob is we got the reboot version. I think this is still going to be decent because of the support, so I'd have to put this probably somewhere here, but it would go towards the back. I do believe that it's still better now because of the support, but it won't be as good as the new one, I think. Then we have the Blue Bardock. Now, the engine for this, the entire archetype, is very good, but the leader isn't that great. So I'm going to have to say it's okay. You could definitely still take this to locals. I don't see you ever topping with this, but I'd love to be proven wrong. And then we've got the Expert deck Android 21. This is competitive. Now, it just comes down to which way do you want to play Android 21. I personally prefer the BT20 version, but Expert is also very good too. I don't know too much the pros and cons between the two. I haven't played the Expert, but I've been watching a lot of videos of it being played, and it looks like it kind of works better than the original set 20, but I prefer this set 20. It's still competitive though. Now, there's stuff that we could move around. Is there anything worth moving around? I'm not sure. I mean, meta makes sense, Gamma. I think the competitive play from Android 21, I would say it's kind of meta, but there's still easy ways to answer the deck right now. So I would have to say it goes just to competitive. Good locals, I mean, a lot of these are, especially the ones up here, from like this point up to Barris. This is definitely good locals, like without a doubt. And then the stuff further back, yeah, it's generically good. I would say this would probably go further back. We still do see Hirudegon play. It's not really topping, but it's still performing in good locals. Like, people are taking it to locals. Janemba as well. That definitely is good locals, but because it's more of a choice, that's why I put them side by side. The Gogeta leader, this is good. We see less play of it, but it's good. I'd have to put this further up. Yeah, I think in general, this is a more than less pretty accurate to what you would see for blue in general. I'm quite happy with this. But if you're not happy with it, let me know in the comments down below. I love to read it. And without further ado, thanks for watching. If you like it, you like it. You don't, you don't. Peace.